Hello, ghouls and gals. Welcome to Spirits and Spells with me, Psychic Medium, and today, Spooktacular Witch. Today I have plenty in store. Let me get a few things ready, and as everyone filters in, and then we can get started. But I'd always like to welcome you to Spirits and Spells. Oh, so let me get everything ready. I hope you are all having a ghoulish night. I can't tell you how joyous it is to have such a cold and rainy night. I love to see such spectacular weather. I am so excited for this evening. I have so much planned for all of us. And as I am getting ready and making sure nobody can bother us, hate to have people walk in the middle of so much gore and horror. They just don't know what to do with themselves. We have a bit of a schedule today. I have not only a few glorious tales of my own, I have readings for you all to see, dead people to talk to, and surprises along the way. As of now, let me make sure that everything, can't have the ghosts calling in the middle of a live broadcast. This isn't 411, or is it 1-800-DEAD-MAN? So, I hope you are all having a wonderful Halloween. Happy Ween, Brandy. Hello, Danielle. I would like to start off with a few comments. By all means, feel free to share this absolutely glorious live broadcast. I do expect to have a ghoulish time. Blessed Samhain Devi. I would like to start off by saying that I'm going to be telling some tales of creeps and bumps in the night from my childhood and my life that I've experienced along the way of being a psychic medium and doing ghost hunting and those were the days when creeping through an old cemetery and seeing faint images of people walking through the trees, and sometimes I feel like the dead are more alive than we are. All in all, this will be a joyous night. I will be offering readings throughout this live broadcast. I do have two special guests who have graced our presence by letting me read for them live on camera, and I'm very excited about that. And I will be doing, I will ask if there are any loved ones who want to come through the live broadcast. And if there are, I'll share the messages that I get from them. And if there is anyone who relates to these messages from these loved ones, please feel free to let me know if you feel this is for you. Understand that you'll have to be able to accept and own all the information that's being given, and because we want to make sure that we have the right person giving the right messages to the right recipient. And once that is done, if you would like to come on to the live broadcast and be a participant, and finish the reading that way, I can always invite you into the video. Halloween was always one of my favorite holidays, and growing up, my mother always made sure I had a good costume. We always, I always went trick-or-treating. One year I was a pumpkin, one year I was a sailor when I was really little. I have just thoroughly enjoyed Halloween, and as I've gotten older and understand where a lot of the practices of Halloween, All Hallows Eve, Samhain come from, I've really understood and appreciated the history of Halloween. And while I am not a master or an expert in the history of Halloween, I'd like to give a few bits of information. Halloween is a time when the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest. And so what it allows is it allows loved ones and spirits who have crossed over, who roam the world, to visit us. And it allows spooks and ghouls and goblins to knock on our doors and bring their naughty, naughty tricks and their naughty, naughty ideas to our doorsteps. And one of the reasons why we put out jack-o'-lanterns is to scare off these spirits and protect the home with a candle and a gourd. And the reason why the children dress up as ghosts and ghouls and witches and warlocks is to represent these ghosts and these ghouls and goblins, because we don't want the real ones coming to our doors, do we? We want to play the theater and allow these children, donning the roles of goblins and ghouls, to come to our doors, and we offer them treats in exchange for their not performing tricks. So what this does is it tells the ghosts, well, I want to say gooses, maybe it's dead geese. It allows ghosts and ghouls to see that they're being appreciated and get confused in everything and not come to our door. And so throughout All Hallows Eve, we place out items and things that protect the home from ghosts and goblins, and like jack-o'-lanterns, and give treats to ghosts and goblins as the theater to show these ghosts that are wandering the world that they're being given treats, so that don't bother the homes, don't scare anyone. And also it represents a time such as Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, where I'm sure I butchered the pronunciation of that, where the Mexican and Spanish people would honor the dead and build altars to the ancestors. You can see I have one behind me. I have pictures of my loved ones that are laying flat that you can't see. And they would place marigolds, because marigolds were believed to allow the spirits to cross over and guide them to the altars and to guide them their way back to the afterlife. And they would leave food, and they would leave offerings and loved and tokens and pictures, and all of that helped guide the loved ones from the realm of the dead back to the living, so they could enjoy the feast with their loved ones. And we see this in a lot of cultures around the world, where they feast with their loved ones who are passed, placing out place settings for food. There is a spiritual tradition called the Dumb Supper, where everyone gets together in this giant potluck. And during this potluck, they are quiet from the moment they enter to the moment they leave, or until a time has been set for the being quiet. And during that time, they don't talk, they sit in mourning, and to represent that feeling of being dead and respecting the dead. And I love dumb suppers. I've been to a few of them, and they're beautiful. They're very moving emotionally, and I really love experiencing dumb suppers. My family, my mother, her family used to love Halloween, and they would do all these big, scary things for the trick-or-treaters. And one day she dressed up as a witch when she was young. She was a teenager, which of course when she lived at home. And she Um, her brother was a werewolf, and her sister was this old hag, and she dressed up as a witch, gypsy witch, sitting at a table. And as kids would come up to get candy from her, my uncle would jump out and scare them as a werewolf, and my aunt would scare them as this old hag. Oh, thank you, Debbie. So the point of the dumb supper is being quiet so they can give up their voices so the dead can speak. Thank you. And when my mom had her son and my dad, her and him were together. My brother was about 8 and 9. They would do the same thing. My mom would dress up as this old witch, and the kids would try to come get candy from her. My brother would jump out of a werewolf out of this big tree and scare the living or dead daylights out of all the kids. And so I grew up really loving Halloween. My mother really, really enjoyed it. As I got older, when I was born, I grew up to a point where I could remember Halloweens. My mother was a little bit too tired and worked too much, and my dad was gone a lot, so we didn't do a lot of the haunted house stuff anymore. But my mom would take me trick-or-treating, and I would go with friends trick-or-treating, and I just really began to really love Halloween. And growing up in a haunted house, that brought Halloween to a new level. I grew up in this very haunted house where there was this woman, and I'm not going to tell all the story about her, what was all in this house right now. We're going to have to come back later for that. But there was this lady, and she would walk around the house, and I saw her come into my bedroom one night when I was like 6, and I thought it was my grandmother who had died, and it wasn't. And she was dressed in this nurse's gown, like from the Civil War, and she would walk through the house, and she would rock your bed like she was rocking you to sleep, or she was checking on you. And then one day, and this is a true story, all of my horror stories, all my scary stories that are going to be true stories, on myself as a medium. And one night, my mother was laying in bed in her bedroom, obviously, and my dad was in the kitchen on the computer, and I was in bed. And my mother was a very hot sleeper. She always was very hot. After having me, she went right into menopause, so she had hot flashes. I'm so sorry, Mother. And so one night, she had these covers at her ankles, and then just a light sheet that covered up the rest of her. And one night, the blanket went from her ankles to her shoulders, and she freaked out because she turned around, there was nobody there. And we had these very old hardwood floors in the house, and in order to leave her room, you had to hear someone walking on these old creaky wood floors, and she didn't hear anybody. And I remember her telling me this when I was 13 because she didn't want to scare me as a kid. And lo and behold, I had been having some experiences of my own. And so I had already known there were spirits going on, and her and I talked to her about that. And we had so many stories to tell each other, so many instances where we had experienced ghosts. I will tell you more about that later. As for now, I want y'all to know that at 7:30, I have scheduled, because y'all know I'm a bit OCD. I'm an OCD witch. At 7:30, we have someone coming on to this live broadcast who's going to let me do a tarot reading for them. And I keep looking at the time because I want to make sure that I stay on schedule, because I have someone else for y'all later. And then we're going to get into just some general readings. And then we're going to get into some stories. Now, if anyone has any cool, spooky stories that you've actually happened that not that you've heard, but have happened to you, we can get into them. And if you'd like to be invited onto the live broadcast, and your video would be up, and people would be able to see you all around the world, you're welcome to let me know, and I'd be happy to invite you onto the broadcast. If you're still watching, if you're still here, you'll have to use a device that allows for video chat, and otherwise it'll be a spectacular time. So I want y'all to all take a moment and just allow silence, allow quiet to come over you. Allow the feeling of cold, as if a mist has rolled into your home. I want you to know that your loved ones are walking among you today, that they're with you, that they're here. Ooh, girl, watch out, she's next to you. Ooh. And I want y'all to remember not just your loved ones that you knew, but your ancestors, your great-great-grandmothers who allowed for our rights where they are today, our great-great-grandfathers who fought for freedom, our native ancestors that go back so far we can't even find them in our bloodlines. And I want us all to remember that we all come from a place of oneness. We all come from a place of nature and of connectedness. And Halloween represents that for me, where the energy of magic and mysticism, the mystical abilities of the world crackle like static in the air. That is what Halloween is for me. And I look forward to sharing this night with each and every one of you. So allow yourself to take that moment and feel all of our ancestors with us and give them a big thanks. Give them a mental and spiritual round of applause for surviving this world without air conditioning and or central heat, depending on if you don't like it cold, and allowing us to be where we are today. And know, Brandy, that even if you can't feel spirits, even if you can't feel their energy, they're around you all the time. Your loved ones are always watching you. They're always watching out for you. They're always here for you. And so that's the beauty of Halloween, is that it is a holiday in which we understand that this is happening, and we expect it, and we appreciate it, and we use it to our advantage. For those who feel that they can't connect by seeing ghouls and goblins and ghosties all over, it reminds us that the dead is there. The dead are there. And it allows us to connect to a part of ourselves that for the rest of the year we might have a hard time connecting to. That magical side of everything, that ability to tap into the unseen, that ability to tap into the unknown, and allow yourself a freedom of imagination. Halloween allows us to let our subconscious and our inner desires come out in a constructive, healthy way. And it's one of the things I love so much about Halloween, is that it provides so much freedom, not just for the living, but definitely for the dead. So, tonight we will discuss all sorts of topics. I will do my best to make sure this lasts 2 hours, as I have someone who's coming on at 8:45 for a reading. And like I said, if there is anyone here, anyone present, who would like to come on and tell a creepy story that happened to them in their life, let me know, comment, and I can invite you on. And so there might be a bit of a lag in my video and what y'all are seeing. And so understand that I have to go with the first person I see comment, and that's unfortunate. And so if there is a lag, I apologize if someone gets skipped due to a lag, but I will do my best to be as fair as possible. When I was a kid, I used to experience such strange things. I used to hear sounds. I used to feel things from people. I used to see things. I remember one day I was riding my bike to school, and I had this really bad feeling, this really odd feeling. And there's a busy street called Lewis Street in New Iberia that was, and I was going to have to cross it to get to the school. And oh, my foot's falling asleep, I hate that. as I was approaching the street, I looked across the street and saw what I swore was the Grim Reaper. I saw a black, shadowy, cloaked figure, and it scared me so much I slammed on my brakes and I like fell off my bike into the grass. And right as I did that, a car passed. And I remember thinking, okay, that was really odd. I could have died. I could be dead. Maybe this was just like a warning, like an omen, like, ooh, don't stop. Just don't cross, stop. And as soon as I got off my bike, there was nobody there. And I, got back on my bike, and there's nobody across the street. And it happened in maybe like 10 seconds. And it was very odd. It was very spooky. And I, to this day, every time I think about that memory, I think, okay, well, thank you. Whatever spirit out there kept me from dying by getting hit by a car, thank you. And so I think of things like that when Halloween comes around. And I always keep my eyes and my antenna open for any kind of spiritual experiences like that. I want everyone to understand that sometimes we can't exactly see what's going on. However, our peripheral vision, the vision that comes out of the corner of your eye, is connected to your subconscious. So when you see shadows pass just beyond your line of sight, when you turn, they're not there, your subconscious is capable of seeing things that your conscious mind cannot see. Spooky. And what happens is your conscious mind will delete and eliminate and void something that doesn't fit the narrative of your life. So, if you don't think that you should be able to see ghosts, or that you don't think ghosts are real, you might be seeing them, and your conscious mind is deleting them from your memory. And so the subconscious mind, which sees through the peripheral vision, is what allows you to see spirits out of the corner of your eyes, or shadows in the corner of your eyes, because it is connected to your subconscious. And your subconscious remembers every single thing that you ever see or experience in your life, regardless if it seems possible or impossible. Because your subconscious is always awake, always aware, always paying attention. And so people who have dreams about things that they've never experienced might just be seeing a memory that they didn't know was erased by their conscious mind. So, with that being said, we have 3 minutes before our first victim comes on to the live broadcast. She has asked for a tarot reading. Oh, I do hope things aren't devilish for her in her life. I hate for that to be just all over TV or all over the internet. And so, if you or someone would like a reading during this live broadcast, you're welcome to come on. Anyone who does get a reading, anyone who would like to donate to this live broadcast, I put in a lot of work to put this on, and I wanted y'all to have something fun and exciting to watch in case you're not going out or you're not able to leave the house tonight. I didn't want you to miss out on this beautiful holiday simply because you may not be feeling well, or you have work tomorrow, so you can't really go out. I wanted y'all to have something fun to experience. And so if you would like to donate even $5, $10 to my PayPal, it would be greatly appreciated, but it's definitely not required. Message me, and I will send you my PayPal link after the live broadcast. I love doing this stuff. It does take a lot of work, and I'm not doing it for the money, but I've been told before, after getting off of a live broadcast and doing readings, that people wanted to donate, and so I always let them know when I do readings on a live broadcast, if they would like to donate, they're very welcome to do so. And so, just message me now or after the broadcast, and I will send you a PayPal link. My aunt was in a nursing home across town. She was very sick. We got a call that the end was near, and my mother rushed out to be with her. I was in my room. My aunt came to my room and told me goodbye. 5 minutes later, the nursing home called to tell us that my aunt had passed away. I was 18. Elizabeth, that is a very common story, but a beautiful one to hear every single time. The soul will leave the body up to hours, maybe even days before the person passes away, and will visit their loved ones, especially at the time of death, and let them know they'll say their goodbyes, and they'll give messages, and they'll visit. Because at that point of transition, there's a lot of energy going on, and there's a lot of power in that moment. And so the soul has this burst of energy and visits all those loved ones, and can be very, very seen even to those who may have a hard time visualizing or experiencing spirit. And so it is a beautiful experience, and one that is very good for grief, because it allows you to say goodbye. And so thank you so much for sharing that story with us. Well, everyone, it is 7:30. We're gonna invite our first guest in. Her name is Danielle, and I'm trying to find her. Danielle, there should be a I would be happy to read for you, Debbie. I have someone coming on at 7:30, but I might have a spot before then. I'm waiting for this one person to get on. There we go. We're gonna go ahead and invite Danielle Thomas. Everyone, I just want to say a big round of applause for everyone who is going to joining us today. Hi, Danielle. How you doing, my love?
Just got back from taking the kids trick-or-treating, so I'm at home relaxing now.
Well, you made it out, and I'm glad to see a goblin didn't kidnap you on the way. Oh, good, and we have kids who are high on sugar. Mama. Yeah. Yay. So, Danielle, you're wanting a tower, is that correct? Can you hear me, love?
Hold on, baby. Hold on, I'm having a hard time hearing on my iPad. Let me see if I can switch something here.
Okie dokie. It is the first day of Mercury retrograde, everyone, so I was expecting
there we go. Now I can hear you.
Hold on, I'm having a hard time hearing on my iPad. Let me see if I can switch something. Can you hear me? Perfect. So, you're wanting a tarot reading, correct? It is the first day of Mercury retrograde, everyone, so I was expecting... Oh, that's a big bag.
Now I can.
Mama.
Okay. Perfect. So, you're wanting a tarot reading, correct? It is the first day of Mercury retrograde, everyone, so I was expecting... Oh, that's a big bag. Now I can.
Mama.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Perfect. So, you're wanting a tarot reading, correct? It is the first day of Mercury retrograde, everyone, so I was expecting... Let's try this. Can you hear me okay? Oh, technical difficulties, everyone. I was expecting this. I have backup plans because I'm OCD and I think about everything.
There we go. Okay. I switched from my iPad to the phone. Yeah.
Okay. There's a bit of a lag.
Yeah, I hear it. Okay, it's off.
that I'm going to call. The problem with this is that we can't exactly test this out without actually going live. And so there was zero chance of being able to see if this was going to work ahead of time. So I put in contingencies because I'm OCD. And so the contingency was that we would call her. So we have her.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, everyone. Yes, it is Mercury retrograde, Anisha. So I have her on the phone, and so we'll do the reading on the phone. And if anyone can hear us, if you can't hear Danielle, maybe she can type her responses while she talks. So if someone could Danielle, if you could say hi to everyone.
Hi.
If y'all can hear her, I hope y'all can. I have it as loud as I possibly can. And it's going to be down here on the table, so that way I can do her reading. This is an odd situation, but I wanted to do some one-on-one readings because I wanted y'all to experience how these would work. And so some phones and some people have different lags. So I remember one day I had someone who it was immediate, and then I had someone who had like a good 15-second lag. So Danielle, is there anything particular you'd like me to read for you today?
I just want to, I'm kind of going through some things in my life right now, and I'm just trying to make sure that I'm on the right path so I can be happy.
Okay. So, would this be about something to do with a living situation?
Yeah, something like that, and like a relationship issue.
Okay. Definitely got that it was a lot of your home stuff. So I'm going to cut the deck into 3 small piles. I'd like you to choose 1, 2, or 3.
Okay. I'll go with 2.
Alrighty. So she chose the second pile. So what comes up first is the 8 of Wands. So as you're watching, I'll go ahead and you can still see me, right, Danielle?
Yeah, I see you.
Okay, there is a bit of a lag, so let me know if you need me to slow down. The 8 of Wands represents swift action. So what this tells me is that things have been moving very quickly for you, especially energetically and emotionally. There's a passion that sort of comes and goes very quickly, like a flash or a strike of lightning. And it motivates you to make a change, and it motivates you to want more because it is exciting and it is motivating. But we have to always be aware of the shadow side of everything that we go through. So where the lightning strike isn't, it can produce a feeling of ominous and a sense of worry and a sense of fear. We're waiting for that lightning strike to happen because we like the thrill that it gives us, but sometimes it's not necessarily appropriate. We need to do things level-headed. We don't want to be making decisions in the middle of a storm, right? So very quick action. So I feel like you're very moved very quickly. So next card. So what we have here is the 8 of discs. This is the shadow side of the 8 of discs. So normally the 8 of discs represents meticulous, strong, concise, consecutive work. So this kind of goes along with what I was saying about the 8 of Wands. We have 2 8s already, which is telling you maybe to slow down a little bit and make sure you think everything through. Make sure everything is exactly as it needs to be. However, with the shadow side of this card, which is what you got, sometimes there are things in our lives that are unseen. So here we have the man working in his shop, building this beautiful tree of discs and preparing this beautiful story, right? Well, behind him is this child that we don't see as we're looking in, and this glow of these discs represent that sometimes we have things that we have to think about that are not tangible, like emotions, thoughts, and people that are not directly affected, that we can't see when we're looking outside in. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't make this decision. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't go along with what you're feeling. It means that you make sure that you look at every angle and that you're not missing something that is actually quite important. Okay?
All right.
So, next, we have the Seven of Cups. So, the Seven of Cups, this is the shadow side of the Seven of Cups. Actually, that's wrong. This is actually the light side of it. The Seven of Cups is not the most positive card. It represents debauchery, it represents being stagnant, and it represents being a bit in the muck of things. And so I feel like right now in your life, things have gotten very stuck feelings of being just sort of bogged down. I do feel like your life could use a bit of a cleansing. Your picture like a tidal pool, like on a little stream that's gotten dammed up, and we need to allow some fresh water to come in. So maybe going through your house with some sage and bringing in some positive music. If you like gospel, or if you just like some really good like 80s like yeah music, do what you need to liven up your energy and help clear it of old negative ways and negative energies that have gotten clogged, because you definitely need a rush of positive energy. The quote unquote shadow side of this card, which is just the opposite, since this is a bit more of a negative card, this would be more positive. What we don't realize is that even though we feel stuck, even though we feel a bit lost, there is someone there guiding us. There is someone shining light on us, whether it be God, whether it be whoever you believe in, whether it be ancestors or loved ones. There is this energy that is watching over you. And so you might feel stuck, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't reach out to your higher power or your ancestors and seek advice and help. Because most of the time when we feel stuck and we feel a bit stagnant, it can cause us to disconnect more with the higher power of whatever we work with and make us feel disconnected and lost. So this is very, very important. As you're going through, and as I will tell this whole story, right now the reason why things that can be quite quick action can be problematic is because it is an action out of reaction versus thoughtful action. So let me put that in a better way. Instead of making the choice or the decision to act upon a situation, a reaction is one either made out of survival, fear, panic, or overexcitement. And what that can do is it can cause our actions to be a bit more harmful or problematic in the long run. Not necessarily not work out, but it could be done a bit smoother and a bit healthier if we just slow down a bit and we think about all the avenues that we have to look at. We think about every factor in the situation, and if we make sure that we don't allow ourselves to get disconnected from our higher sources and our higher advisors and the higher wisdom that we work with. Even if you're not a very spiritual or religious person, just reaching out to those that are on the other side that you love and that connect to you, ancestors, grandparents who've passed on, great-grandparents who've passed on, reaching out to them and just asking, say, hey, I could really use your help in this situation, and please show me a sign or give me some advice while I sleep in my dreams, will really go a long way. Overall, you have the sun. So the sun represents glory, gain, riches. It is creation. It is excitement. I believe this is the sun. It's 19. It may not be the sun. It might be the world. I don't know exactly for sure the images on this deck. I haven't used this deck yet, but I am drawn to the sun, the sunflowers. I've been doing this for 16 years and I still have not memorized the wood card is what number. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to tell you that this is a good sign. If it is the world, if it is the sun, doesn't really matter. At 19, it's probably the world. Either way, this is representing a bigger picture. This is representing peaceful times coming, things that we have been wanting coming. As you can see, the young man or young girl who is petting this white horse. This white horse, I feel, represents peace, represents tranquility and hard work coming to fruition. The sunflowers behind it represent life. They are reaching up to the sun and this deity figure in the sun. And there is this sense of echoing the sun's energy of warmth and passion and compassion. And so I really, really love this card for you, that it will work out in the long run. I will say, always going to share the shadow side. So here on the shadow side, we see a lot of things that have been a wall and an obelisk. Sometimes we have to remember that what we've wanted and what we want most comes from hard work and ugly times. You know, we look at the front of this card and it's beautiful and it's bright and it's very holistic and healing. And then we look to the shadow side of this card and it's very dark and it's cold. And so we need to remember that the things that we've wanted and things that we've searched for and asked for, a lot of times comes with a hard past, a hard time behind us. But it does not take away, in fact, it adds to the glory that comes once we reach that destination. And so regardless of what this card is, I can tell you that it's representing finding that sense of peace and that sense of sanctuary and that light at the end of the tunnel. Overall, I will say in this reading, you know, this definitely tells of a lot of hard decisions. This definitely tells of things that need to be thought about very thoroughly and in not necessarily detail, but in balance. Thought of in balance. For instance, you can't make this decision unless you know how it's going to affect every single person. Because while you being happy is important, and you're who I'm reading, and so what's important is your well-being. However, doing things healthy, Spirit doesn't want bridges torn down out of fear and survival. They want people to be able to come and go through their lives in a healthy, healing way, where all people involved are better and not worse than when they left it. And so make sure you look at all avenues and all angles before, don't necessarily, change your mind, but look at all the angles and make sure that nothing's being missed, and then work with those around you that you love and respect and that you go to for advice and strength, and work towards a happiness and a fulfillment versus running away from something unhappy. Okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Well, Danielle, it was a pleasure reading for you. I thank you so much for taking this time out and letting me chat with you on live broadcast. And I hope everyone, thank you. Everyone give Danielle a round of applause for her bravery, coming on live and letting us read for her. I thank you so very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the live broadcast, my dear.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sweetheart.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, a lot of times as a reader and as a spiritual healer, I have to get into topics that are difficult to discuss, because who wants to tell someone in the relationship? Who wants to tell someone this is a bad relationship, but you can't just end it? Who wants to seem uncaring to someone's pain? Not most healers. And so it can be difficult to have to tell somebody, yes, I know that you're going through a lot of pain right now, but stop, slow down, look at the situation accurately. And not that they're seeing it wrong, but that they're missing something, because something, if they've come to get a reading, something feels like it's not right. They're unsure of something. They've talked to their friends, they've talked to their loved ones, they've talked to their people, and yet something still seems off. And what they're looking for is advice about a situation that they can't seem to get a full grasp on. And so as a reader and as a healer, you have to tell them you're missing something and you need to look at different angles because there is a person that you're missing that you're not thinking about. And right now, that's what I feel for you, Danielle. Is I feel like you're missing the thought of someone else. Um, you're hurting right now. You're not super happy, uh, um, but um, but we don't want to hurt others while trying to fix ourselves because it doesn't heal your pain, it just transfers it. And in order for you to truly heal, you have to heal it, not transfer it to someone else. And because if you just transfer it to someone else, that means it can eventually come back. We want to heal it, which means we have to make sure that when we make these decisions about going forward in our lives in happiness, that we are doing it where all parties and all people involved are better than when we left them. That's how you make decisions in a healing way. Um, and that's what I believe these cards are telling you to watch out for. I'll give you a bit of a rundown again on these cards. The first card you had was the Light of Eight of Wands. Then you had the Shadow of the Eight of Pentacles, or discs as I like to call them. Then you had the light side of the Seven of Cups. And you had the light side of either the World or the Sun. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. I could be wrong about both. I'll text you what the name of the card is once the live broadcast is over. So, if you are someone who's interested in doing readings, be sure that when you read for someone that you understand that your role to play is not just push them along in their feelings, but to make sure that what they're doing is healing and healthy for them. If it's not, and you're just telling them what they want to hear, you can do damage to someone's life, and that is absolutely not the appropriate action for a healer. So thank you again, Danielle. All right, so how about we tell a few more scary stories? So, when I was a child, a lot of things happened as a child. I'd get home from school. I was about to say work, so I'd get home from school, and the house that we lived in was my dad's parents' house, and this house was old. And in New Iberia, there was a lot of old houses, and New Iberia had a part to play in the Civil War, and we would have reenactments in town, and there was a lot going on. There was a lot of spooky energy in New Iberia. And when I would get home from school, I'd be alone for about an hour and a half because my mom would get off of work at 5:30. My dad might be out of the country, or he might be at the office, and he might not get home till about 6. And so I'd be getting home around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I'd be alone for about an hour and a half. And I'd get home, and I'd get the spare key, and I'd go inside, and I'd fix me a snack, and I'd put on Sightings on Sci-Fi. Loved that show. And there was an old part of the house and a new part of the house. So my dad's parents had 5 kids, and which in the house that they lived in had a huge garage that was connected to the house, of course. And that garage later, when they had more kids, got changed and updated to being an informal den, an extra bedroom, and an extra bathroom and a laundry room. And it expanded on the kitchen. And so the new part of the house never had a lot of spooky stuff going on, but the old part of the house, where you would cross the threshold from the den to the formal living room that my mom made it into, and what we also called the hallway because it led to the back bedrooms and the back bathroom. The old part of the house was always very creepy. But we had 2 recliners that sat with their backs to the old part of the house where the doorway was right behind you. And I'd be watching TV, and I'd be watching Sightings while I was eating my snack. And I'd hear from the back of the house Sean, Sean, Sean. I'd hear my name called over and over throughout the hour and a half that I was there home by myself. I'd get up and I'd go look through the house and I'd try to find, maybe my mother was home playing a trick on me, maybe my dad was home, but there were no cars in the driveway and nobody was in the house. And I'd be sitting in the recliner watching sightings, and all of a sudden I'd feel the hair stand up on the back of my neck, and I'd feel someone standing in the doorway behind me, and a chill would come over me, and I'd feel preyed upon. I'd feel nervous. I'd feel scared, and I'd begin to worry, and I'd turn and look, and no one was there. And so I would get up and I would look around the corner and no one would be there. And so this would happen every single day when I got off of school. I'd get off, I'd make my snack, I'd put on sightings, or I'd put on some other TV show to watch and relax from school, and then lo and behold, I'd hear my name called. Hey, Sean, come see. From the old part of the house. From my back bedroom. Where no one was. And when I grew up and I got older, around 15, my mother and I were having a conversation about how when she was in the den and watching television and she'd be alone in the house, she'd hear her name called, telling her to come into the old part of the house. Hey, Deborah. Deborah. And she would get up and she would go look to see if maybe I was there. But Lord knows I wouldn't have called her Deborah when I was a child. For fear of my life. And so, and she started having nervous feelings about that house. One night, I was getting ready for bed and I was in the den. And this beautiful formal living room hallway had this beautiful green wingback smoking chair that you see in an old study. And it would come up to right about your shoulders. And there was a huge bay window just to the left of that chair. Or when you would be looking at the chair, it would be to your right. And this big bay window didn't have any curtains or blinds on it or anything. And outside was this huge street light. And so normally light would pour in through this window and illuminate this gorgeous formal living room. Piano, couch, the wingback chair. And one day, as I was going to bed one night, and it was my mother and I were alone in the house, as I was going into the living room and going into the hallway, I saw a figure of a man sitting in that green chair. I saw what looked like a head above the back of the green chair. I saw a figure sitting there, clear as day, a shadow, looking at me, watching me, scared the heck out of me. And I remember feeling uneasy and nervous, and that I was being preyed upon, and I was being watched. And so I'd run through the hallway and go in my room and close my door. And then I'd have this feeling that there was something standing outside my door. And as I got older, and more of these things happened, more strange things happened with this man. My father was out of the country a lot around this time, around 9, 10, 11. And it would be just my mother and I. My mother was a very strong Cajun woman, very confident, very proud, very not frightened by much. And there were nights where the doors wouldn't lock and wouldn't stay closed. Our door that we entered and exited from the kitchen, and the living room door, that was the front door that we didn't really come in and out of unless we were getting the mail, the house would settle or unsettle, and those doors would just swing open. And you'd go back and you'd lock them, and the door would just swing open. And we didn't have deadbolts, we just had the little knobs, but the door would just open. And my mother installed chains on the doors, and the door would open and the chain would catch it. And there were days when my mother would shimmy a chair under the doorknob to keep the doors closed. And one night in particular, the house just was unsettled, and the doors wouldn't close and lock, and there was this ominous feeling, and my mother made us go sleep at a hotel room because she was afraid, she was nervous. Nowhere in the house seemed comfortable or safe. And she took us to a motel, and we spent the night there. And so a lot of weird things happened in that house. When I was about 11 or 12, I was at a friend's house. We were playing hide and seek in the dark, and I stopped my tracks, and I had this feeling and this fear where I just had to go home. I just had to go see my mother. I had to get back to my mom. And at this time, we had this beautiful Australian Shepherd named Chance. We named him Chance in hopes that my father would give him a chance. And we were also big fans of the movie Homeward Bound. And we named him Chance, and he was a very beautiful, very large Australian Shepherd who was very, very smart and very, very protective of my mother and I. And so I got home, I made my friends walk me back to my house. We were about a block or two away. And we lived in a very small suburban, rural neighborhood, suburban neighborhood where everybody knew everybody. And so a lot of the kids, we would walk around in the middle of the night and nobody cared. So, mind you, this was middle of the 90s, late 90s. So, I walk home and I break into the house and I get in, I unlock the door and I undo the chain and I go in and I see my mother laying in the den on the sofa, and Chance is in front of her in like attack position, like he's growling and snarling, and this dog never did that, ever. And the hair around his neck was up and high, and he looked like a gray timber wolf. He was beautiful. And I ran over to him and I tried to calm him and I couldn't. And then he moved around me and pushed me up against my mother on the couch, and I tried to wake her up and I couldn't get her to wake up. And it's like she was just out of it. And I looked and he was still growling and snarling at the old part of the house. He was growling and snarling at the doorway into the formal living room, into the old part of the house. And I looked, and it was just black and thick, like ink. And I thought, that's very odd. Why can't I see the street light, the light that the street light puts off? Why is it so dark in there? What's going on? And I remember feeling oppressed. I remember feeling pressure and fear and scared. And I remember grabbing my mom and trying to wake her up, and she wouldn't wake up. And I grabbed Chance, and I just prayed, go away, go away, go away. Leave us alone, leave us alone, leave us alone. And all of a sudden, I remember there being this pop, this like, poof, this pop. And I looked back, and the light was there. I could see into the living room. Chance relaxed and calmed down and laid down next to me and just got calm. And immediately, my mom woke up. And to this day, it was one of the scariest experiences I had ever had in my life. I was 11 years old, 10 or 11. And I remember knowing that something very evil, something very negative was in that house, and it was trying to move past this threshold from the old part of the house into the new part of the house. And I remember knowing that I had just had to call on whomever and connect to Spirit and God, whomever, and just know that I had to pray, and when I say pray, I just meant like talking to whomever. I didn't really say anything particularly, and or specific, and I was gonna say specific. Okay. And my mom woke up. She's like, Sean, what are you doing here? She didn't even know that I had been home for like 10 minutes, and I had been waking her up, and she didn't even know. She woke up and she's like, what are you doing here? And I said, well, Mom, I was trying to wake you up. I had this really bad feeling, and I came home. And she's like, well, when did you get here? Like, how'd you get in? And she had no idea that I was even there. And she's like, I don't know. She was laying here watching TV, and all of a sudden, she was laying there reading a book. And she said, all of a sudden, she's like, this weight came over her, and she just felt like she couldn't stay awake anymore, and she fell asleep. And she's like, the next thing you know, you're here. And her and I to this day believe that our connection allowed me to feel that something wasn't right with her and get to her. And maybe as a child I connected to the energy that I had as a medium that I didn't know that I had, and helped deal with the situation. Not too long after that, we really didn't have any other instances occur where we felt negative things happening. And not too long after that, my parents separated and we left. And so we moved out of that house. And so up until after that happened, we never really experienced anything else. And it was very strange and very spooky. And so it was what really ignited my passion for ghost hunting and spirit hunting and spiritual investigations, because I knew that if it was happening to me, that it was happening to other people. And I knew that I had the ability to help them find it and experience it. And once we moved out of that house, we moved into another small house, and then we moved in with my brother. And that's where another scary, creepy story comes in. And we'll get into that story in just a moment. But right now, I would like to open the floor to saying that I have a loved one here. She reminds me of my mother, but it's not my mom. I have a loved one here. She is talking about, I feel like this is a mother or a this feels like a mother or a mother figure. This feels like a mother, grandmother. And she shows me a mixing bowl with cake batter in it. And I see her making a cake. It looks to me like I see this big, like, white bowl, like a Pyrex or a white mixing bowl, and I see cake batter in it, and she's mixing it, and there's stuff in this cake batter, and I'm not sure what's in the cake batter. I see cake batter, I see her mixing it, and I see her pouring it into cake pans, and I feel like she's making somebody's birthday cake. And so there's something about maybe a birthday being in October or November, of the person that I'm talking to. Not necessarily for her, but that she would be baking a cake around this time for someone. And I see her making the frosting, and I see her mixing frosting and getting that ready for the cake. And I feel like she says that she wasn't necessarily Betty Crocker, but she definitely could make a cake. I do feel like the cake might be store-bought, but she could bake it and not burn it. She's very sweet, although she is a woman who I feel like in her life had some troubles. I do feel like she passed from an illness. There's something about her where I feel like she got sick before she died. She's drawing me to feeling nauseous and very nauseated, like she would have had a hard time keeping food down maybe right before she passed. I want to say cancer. I want to say something like that, but I don't quote me on that. Because I'm getting a C, a big C, which is usually my sign for cancer. But I'm getting nauseous, and I'm getting it up through my abdomen and into my chest. like she would have had she would have thrown up a lot. Does anyone understand a mother or a mother figure who experienced this a lot before she passed? If you do, please comment. Um, I see her baking the cake. I do feel like she would have enjoyed being in the kitchen with you and making sweets. Not often, because she wasn't the best bake or the best cook. Well, at least she says she wasn't. Um, she might just be really humble. I see long hair. Um, I see long hair being pulled to the side and pulled around, like around here. Um, does anybody who's watching understand this loved one who is in spirit? Comment below if you do. Does anyone? Okay. Hold on, I'm trying to make sure I'm up to date with the with comments. So I'm going to put on my live broadcast on my phone so I can see. Okay, so you think this might be your daughter's grandmother? Okay, um, would this not be your mother? Okay, so I'm assuming this is not your mother since you said that. Um, okay, I do feel like she passed from illness, and I do feel like there was okay. Would she have? Okay, so Anisha, I do feel like this was someone's mom that I'm talking to right now. Do you understand? Do you understand her having longer hair when you were young and baking cakes? Like I see her baking a cake. Would she have been known for baking cakes for people's birthdays? Okay. Um, I feel like she might have added like sprinkles or chocolate chips or something into the cake batter. Um, there's something about I see cakes. No, so she wouldn't have made cakes for people's birthdays. Okay, I see her making a cake. Do you understand this, Brenda? She didn't make them for a living. She didn't make them for money. Um, okay, we might be talking about Rose. Okay, so she didn't make these cakes for a living, but when one of her kids, I don't know if she baked them for a living, but yes, she made cakes for everybody. Okay, and I feel like she would have put sprinkles and stuff in the cake batter because I see flecks of stuff in the cake batter. Um, and do you understand the long hair, Brenda? Like I feel like it would have been kind of pulled around to the side, especially when she was cooking. Okay, cool. So I definitely think we're talking to her, Brenda. Great, thank you so much. Would do you understand her getting sick and having issues with nausea and things like that before her passing? Because I'm being very and I feel like she would have had dizzy spells towards the end of her passing because I just got really dizzy. That could be from energy and the fact that I have eaten recently. Okay, you understand that. She makes me feel like her, and she makes me feel like her and someone who is alive right now. Okay, so I was getting cancer, so I was right about that. Okay. Um, she makes me feel like her and someone who's alive right now hadn't spoken for a while before she died. She makes me feel like there was a personal separation, an emotional separation that was due to disagreements or misunderstandings, and she very much wants to set the record straight that she is sorry that she didn't put more effort into being close. Um, y'all both pay attention. Um, the way we'll know who this is for, this isn't 1-800 dial a dead person. We may be having a piggyback. So make sure you'll listen. But I can tell you, Anisha, cakes, and this woman baked a lot of cakes for birthdays and stuff. So if you don't understand cakes with this person, I definitely think it might not be for you. But she may be bringing through, similar messages for you, so that, because Spirit likes to be efficient. Spirit likes to get as many people as possible. And so they may be bringing messages for both of you. And so listen to the message, even though the communicator that I'm speaking to may not be for you, they may have a message for you as well, okay? So Brenda, I do feel, so yes, she wants to say that she apologizes for not putting more effort into the fixing things with the family. She says that she got hurt by something emotionally and it made her really upset, and she didn't have the strength to get out of her ways of thinking and out of her feelings and out of her emotions and bridge that gap at the time. But I know that's what I should have done. I allow myself to get too wrapped up in my feelings sometimes, even though I'm getting nauseous, even though I didn't share those feelings or talk about them as much as I felt them and internalized them. And I look back now and I realize that there was a lot of time passed and missed with loved ones that I should have had while I was still alive. But I hope now, and I look forward to now, bridging that gap and being a more positive part of your life. She's chatty. She definitely speaks very well. I can hear her quite well. She says thank you for the flowers. Do you understand someone giving her flowers at her funeral? I know there would have, but she says this like it's very specific to you or your daughter. She says thank you so much for the flowers. Something about them being in her honor, or like for her, or in her memory. Okay, so you understand that. Okay. I hear yellow roses. And so I don't know if this was something for her, if she liked yellow flowers, something that was bright. So you understand yellow roses? Because there's something very bright and very... Oh my god, okay. So she said yellow roses. Lovely! Oh my god, I'm so happy. She's talking about a chain, a necklace. Do you understand somebody having a chain or a necklace of hers? Because she shows me a chain. She's pulling me to the chain on my neck. She makes me feel like there would have been an issue with her wearing it before she passed. Like she couldn't wear it because of the nausea, and that she felt very uncomfortable having it on. And so I feel like she would have given it, like someone would have gotten it before she passed. Because there's something about like I'm like pulling, like I'm not wanting to wear this. Like she would have had like claustrophobia or something towards the end when she was really sick. And so she's talking about someone having like this necklace being important. Um, and I think she'd like your daughter to have it. Um, okay. She definitely wants your daughter to have it, but she says things are not important. The knowledge of that I do want her to have it is what she needs to know. That I intended for her to have the things that reminded me of my love for her. Let her know that I was always willing and wanting to fix things right before I died, though I didn't have the time or the chance. I want you to know that you've done a great job raising this girl, even though you and I didn't see eye to eye. Your daughter, even though having some troubles in her life due to sadness and loneliness and feeling lost at times, has become and been a radiant young woman. Tell her it's okay to change. Tell her it's okay to evolve and grow and blossom. For sometimes the most beautiful of petals lie deep beneath the surface. And when we blossom and our old petals are dust in the wind, our inner beauty can shine bright. She was a beautiful woman, and I want you, thank you so much for letting me share that. Petal, I love it. Okay, this is fantastic. Okay. I wish all of my communications were this clear, and I'm working on having them that clear, because I love listening to them talk. One of the things that I love about my galleries and doing mediumship is that I work really, really hard to hear spirit tell me their stories. I don't want to see symbols. I don't mind seeing symbols. I don't mind the dead showing me pictures. I want them to talk to me. I want them to tell me their story. I want them to share with me, as storytellers, things that they've experienced in their lives. I want their voice to echo through me, and I want you to hear their words. And yes, my voice may not change, but the way I speak can sometimes change. And sometimes I can say things in a way someone would have said them, though they're past, and that can be comforting and healing. And I work really hard to be as clairaudient as I can be. And I truly believe clairaudience is one of my biggest gifts as a medium, is being able to hear them tell me their stories. And it's not always accurate, and it is as accurate as it needs to be. And I always work really hard for that. But thank you so much for allowing me to do that reading. I was checking because I have these little chime candles, and I looked in the video and I didn't see one of them, and I realized it had burned out. So they burn in like an hour, so I'm not worried about it. So Brenda, thank you so much for letting me read for you. What a beautiful, beautiful experience. Please set out a place and a memory for Rose tonight and tomorrow. So tonight, we talk about All Souls, we talk about All Hallows Eve, and we talk about Halloween. You're very welcome, Brenda. We talk about Halloween and All Hallows Eve quite often, but we don't really talk about November 1st. November 1st is All Souls Day, All Saints Day, is how people refer to it. And it is the Day of the Dead. It is the day where you go to the graveyard and you go to the cemeteries and you leave offerings, and you leave things where the dead may lie and may lay. And it's where we go and we meet them on their turf. And they've come to us today, and then we walk them back to their resting place on November 1st. I love November 1st. Ever since I was a kid, ever since I was a teenager, I was more obsessed. I was very obsessed about Halloween, but I've also been very, very obsessed with November 1st and honoring, excuse me, just very gassy, and doing a lot of ancestor worship on November 1st. Whew. The unionship ring is taken out of you. And I'm feeling on top of the world from that, but it's still awful. So it is a beautiful day. So tomorrow, if you're free and you are close to where someone is buried or where their ashes may be, go and visit them. Go to them and be like, I appreciate you coming to me yesterday. I'm coming to you today. Thank you so much. And meet them where they are. They're not dead. I mean, they're not in the graveyard. They're not with their bodies. That's just where their body is. Their spirits, as you can see, are around us. And in the spirit of heaven or in the other world, whatever you believe in, the Summerland, the underworld, which is not evil. It's just the underworld. It's where I believe that all souls go in some religions. And it holds both heaven and hell in it. But that's just in some beliefs. And like most mediums, we just call it eternity. And so, they're not there with their bodies. They're not in the ground. They're not in the graveyard or the cemeteries. They are could have sworn I just saw something behind me. Okay. So they are in spirit. They are around us. And so but going to the body, going to the grave, or going to the site of where they last were, or where you memorialize them, just honors them. And that's what tomorrow is for, November 1st. It's a day to honor them as they always honor us who are living. So, scary, spooky story time. So, one day, when I was ghost hunting, speaking of graveyards, do y'all know the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery? Do you? Watch my witch hat. Hold on. My little wizard hat. That's what it's called, a wizard hat. I call it a witch hat. Do y'all know the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery? Sean's going to share the facts today. A graveyard is a plot of land for burying the dead that is attached to a church. It is a holy ground attached to a church. So if you ever see a graveyard where the church is attached to it or right next to it or on the same property, that is specifically a graveyard. Someone knocking on my window. Scratching my window. Not today, Googles. We were protected in here. A cemetery is a graveyard or a plot of land for burying the dead that is not attached to a cemetery. A cemetery is a plot of land where you can bury the dead that is not attached to a church or part of the property of a church. And a cemetery is also where you can bury ashes. So, you cannot bury ashes, supposedly. Supposedly this is real. I read it up online, so grain of salt maybe, but grain of sand. But a graveyard is a plot of land where you can bury the dead that is attached and part of a church. A cemetery is a plot of land where you can bury the dead and bury their ashes that is not attached or part of a church, particular church. Learned that the other day. So, just an interesting bit of a little tidbit. So, I was boogly boogly. I was doing a ghost hunting event, but I was doing ghost hunting for with a bunch of friends, and we were in this old cemetery outside of Lafayette in a small town called Rain. That this cemetery was old and really, really old, and didn't have a lot of visitors anymore. And in order to get to the cemetery, you had to drive down this old gravel road. Creepy, I know. And you go gravel road, and then you cross like this fence line, and you drive through the gate, and then you're in this huge cemetery. And one day, me and two other friends, who shall remain nameless right now, friend A and friend B, let's say one name is Linda, one is named Ashley. I can't remember the name. So me and Linda had decided that, because we didn't really have a way to contact each other, even though we had our phones, but we were too dumb to think about that at the time. It was a huge cemetery, and we were going to split up into two teams. Me on one end, and another friend of ours, he was, we'll call him Adam. I changed names in case they don't want to be named. Me and Adam are on one side of this graveyard towards the front, and Wendy and Ashley are in the back, right? And so we're like, should anything crazy happen, just yell, hooty-hoo! Hooty-hoo! Don't ask me how I came up with that sound or that alarm. I don't know. I just did. I said, hooty-hoo! And so we're like, okay, we're going to say hooty-hoo! And so Linda and Ashley go to the back of the graveyard, the cemetery, and me and Adam are in the front, and these are wonderful friends of mine, and me and Adam are walking around, and at one point we stop, and we're like, I think I heard something, and we look over to the corner, and we're seeing these weird shadows around us, and then we see this young girl in a white baby doll dress kind of like run through the graves, scared the crap out of us. You could see it, but you couldn't see it, and it was creepy, and we weren't really paying attention to what we were doing, and we saw this, and we both like, what did we just see? Oh my god, what the hell did we just see? We both individually experienced the exact same thing. We both described what she looked like to Linda later, without talking to each other about it, and we described the same person. And well, all of a sudden we hear this noise, right? And we're like, what is that? And then all of a sudden we hear, hooty freaking who? It wasn't freaking, it was the other F word. Hooty freaking who? Screaming from the back of this cemetery. And we get running. We are running to the back of the cemetery. Live. We jumped in my car and we drove to the back of the cemetery. Sean, don't run. And so we get there. Ashley is on the ground having a fit. Not like actual fit, but she's freaking out. Linda is like, I've been yelling hooty hoo for 10 minutes. We're like, what? She's like, we looked over and there was a person standing next to this grave, and it was just a shadow figure. Ashley freaked out because she'd had a few drinks, and Linda was like, I've been calling for you for 10 minutes. What is the point of an alarm code hooty hoo if you're not listening for hooty hoo? And so she flipped out. She's like, we yelled hooty hoo and nobody hooty hooed came. And so we're like, we're what? She's like, over here. So she said there was some shadows over here. We freaked out. And so we went looking for it. We tried to explain it. We couldn't, find anybody in the cemetery with us. And then Ashley was like, I want to leave. We are leaving now. And we're like, oh, come on. She's like, we are leaving now. I said, okay, fine. So we left. And they were so scared. And then me and Matt, we talked to her later and told her what we saw. And then she said that we both told her the same thing. We saw this little girl with a baby doll dress, white baby doll dress, and long brown, excuse me, and long brown hair. And so it was such a creepy thing. I have never seen a ghost child like that. Scared the crap out of me. I still don't like ghost children. I've watched horror movies that have ghost children in them, and for some reason that just scares the crap out of me. Every time I watch like sightings where they talk about like a child died and is haunting the place, scares the crap out of me. And part of it is because I hate the idea of a child being dead, but it just a ghost child scares the crap out of me. Even though as a kid, one of the ghosts of the house that I lived in, I called him Johnny Quick. He was a child, and him and I played together, and I called him Johnny because that's the name I got, and I called him Johnny Quick because every time I'd go into a room, he was there before me. And so I was like, oh, he's quick, he's fast. I was a child, I wasn't all that clever, okay, Johnny Quick. So him and I used to play together, and so, but to this day, the idea of ghost children scares the crap out of me. Then we went back with these two more people and spirit hunted the same cemetery, and had a lot of crazy experiences there as well. Same group, me, Linda, Adam, and some other people also investigated at this old abandoned Catholic school in Lafayette called the Holy Rosary Institute. And it used to be it was a private school and was run by nuns. And we went one day because I had passed it going to a different friend's house one day. And I remember every time I pass it and see it, I'd get this very dreary, weird feeling and vibe from it, which told me that there was dead people there. And I remember calling her and asking, hey, do you want to go investigate this one night? So we did. We went to investigate this place, and we had so many weird occurrences happening. We kept seeing kids everywhere. We kept seeing this one kid on the roof who would play like hide and seek. Like we would look up and we would see him for a second, and then he'd duck back down. We kept hearing someone calling for help inside the building, and we were very professional. At this time, I had been doing spirit investigations with a group, and we were very, very professional about it. And so what we would do is we would type up our experiences on our phone in our notepad or our note app, or text it to ourselves or whatever. And then when we would get home, we would read our experiences to each other because we had timestamps. It would show what time we had last edited the notes. And so we had proof to say, like, okay, nobody edited it in the past 20 minutes. So they wrote it there. They didn't add it since we were discussing it. And then we would swap phones. So you couldn't change your story while someone else was telling theirs. So we were very scientific about this. And we would see children. And then one day, that night, my friend Linda, she called me over and she was like, Sean, do you see her? And we looked up these steps. It was this big, huge building that had a chapel attached to it. And the front entrance was upstairs. And the stairs were rickety and broken. It was abandoned. And all the windows of this place had been, knocked out. And so there were ways to get into this building. Very easy, just step over like a 3-foot wall and you're in. But no, none of us went in because that was trespassing. But that night, the first night we were investigating, one of the monks who watches over the property now, he came out, he asked us what we were doing, we told him we were investigating we were spirit hunters, we were investigating, and gave him a business card as a reader. And he's like, okay, just don't go inside. And I said, that's not a problem, we will definitely not do that. We knew that it was dangerous to go in, and we knew it was trespassing, and it was not appropriate. And so, um, we were every time we would go ghost hunting, we were very, very respectful to the properties. And so one night, so that night, she calls me over and she's like, "Do you see her?" And I said, "Well, let's type what we see." So I saw a nun holding like a long like yardstick ruler, and I saw her having like a brooch on her neck, around her neck, and she saw a school woman, an old school woman with her hair pulled back. She had a yardstick. She had that yardstick ruler, and then she had a brooch, one of those silhouette brooches that you see from the Victorian age. She wore something like that. We both described the exact same pendant. We both described the yardstick and a woman. I saw the nun. She saw a woman just dressed as a school teacher, a school headmistress. And we both got like really negative feelings from this. And so we're looking at what we're looking at, and all of a sudden we start to hear, "Help me. Help me. Come inside. Help me. I need your help." Coming from inside the building, and it scared the crap out of us. And we knew that there was some negative stuff in that school. And then we investigated it a few more times. We had ghost apps, ghost radar things on our phones that would put out words, sort of like an ovulus. And we had someone with us who threw a rock into a window. The window was broken out. It was just a hole. So he threw it into the room. And right as he let go of the rock came up on the ovulus, and then you heard the rock hit the floor. And we were like, "Don't do that." But he was like, "Oh, I was just trying to provoke." And I was like, "Don't provoke." It started putting off words like school, desk, and then we flashed a light in a room right after it said desk, and as we're walking around, and in the room was a desk. And then the word up came up on the Ovilus app, and then we heard walking. We heard what sounded like footsteps on the second floor above us, above and in front of us, and it was just really creepy. We had all these really weird things that happened, and it was so cool. And I really love spiritual investigations, and to this day, I still love doing investigations in people's houses. I'll do them before I do house cleansings. Like I'll go through the house, see what I get, if I feel anything, and then I do a cleansing if they ask for it. And so it's one of my favorite things to do is spirit hunting, because I love the connection and looking for them and trying to find the evidence and the proof of the spirits. So we are just about ready to get into our next reading. This one's going to be a mediumship, so we're going to try to bring her on live and hope that we're not having any horrible lag. So let's see. Oh, no. Sorry, I tried adding the wrong person, Bettina. That was a mistake. Trying to add Alexis. I hope y'all are all having a wonderful time and enjoying the stories and enjoying the readings. I'm really, really excited about this. I'm having a wonderful time. Alexis!
Hey, honey, how are you?
I'm good. Is there a bad lag?
No, it seems fine.
Perfect!
Yay!
So, my dear, I love that we are both rocking some witchy vibe costume.
Yes!
Moon Goddess Witch. Bit of a gothy.
Exactly, you nailed it.
I love it. So, Alexis, you have agreed to do a mediumship reading with me today. I just want everyone to give her a round of applause and a big thanks for letting her be our guinea pig for this event. And so, are you comfortable and ready for your mediumship reading?
I am.
Awesome sauce. So going forward, I really just ask for yes or no's. If you do understand what I'm talking about, you can say yes, that's accurate, yada yada. You don't have to say just yes or no, but please don't feed the medium unless you're cooking dinner, girl, and I'm on the way. Um, I get off at 9. so, so, you know, I might need to show this baby off. I put a
You
whole
definitely do, Sean.
Thank you. I put a whole 15 minutes into it. And so, you know, you're just so fabulous. Just fabulosity just pours off you. So,
I was thinking that.
thank you. And I love the purple hair. Like, it's great for your skin tone. Just love it. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
you're very welcome. Let's go ahead and get into this because I do have a male here. This male comes in. He feels like a father or a grandfather figure. This man feels like even if he was a grandfather, there's something very fatherly about him. And I do feel like his passing would have happened when you were younger. Do you understand this?
Yes.
Okay. So there's something about him that's kind of in normal life he would have been a bit uptight. I feel like he would have had a lot of stress in his life, and he would have not been the most overly emotional man. But I feel like with you or with another female, he would have allowed himself to be a bit relaxed. Do you understand that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Do you understand this being a grandfather figure?
Yes.
Okay. Because I see you being very little and him being older. I do feel like something took him quick. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Would this have been a heart issue? Because I feel like a heart attack or something with the heart.
An aneurysm, yes.
Okay. Because there's something about I feel the heart beating and then something seizing and then him just passing.
Yes.
I will say he does make me feel like this was like he was a very hardworking man because he comes in and his whole body kind of has this ache to it, which I don't know if he did a lot of physical labor, but he feels like a man who had a lot of things to take care of. Do you understand that?
Yes, a lot of burdens.
Okay. I do feel like when you were little, is there something about you being either an only granddaughter or his first
Yes,
granddaughter?
that's it. I'm the
Okay.
only granddaughter. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because he shows me like
And
him being infatuated with you being the girl. And I feel like he would have put you on his knee and y'all would have had this like secret relationship in the sense of like being very lovey-dovey and doting on you that others may not have seen. Do you understand that?
Definitely.
Okay, because he put you on his knee and he's like, I know it's been a long time since I've held you. He's like, but I always hold you in my heart.
Aww.
But I feel like that would not have been something that he would have said to just anybody because he's like, don't tell anybody I said that. So I do feel like he would have had this persona of having to be very strict and not uptight, but very straight, narrow.
They were uptight and
Huh?
yes, they were uptight and old world kind of.
Okay, cool. Do you understand there being military around him?
Yes.
Okay.
He served in World War II.
Okay, because something about there being military, but then him kind of being out of it, but it being around him. Because there's something about him either having friends who were veterans, but do you understand him kind of separating himself from it? Like he didn't really feel like he was a part of it, but that he served a purpose and then he got out?
Yes, definitely. He compartmentalized.
Okay. Because there's something about him holding his veteran friends to a higher standard than he did himself. Like, y'all are veterans. I just served a purpose. Like, there's this really interesting difference of thought. If you can understand what I'm saying. Do you understand him wearing hats? Because I feel like he had a hat that he would wear. Do you understand that?
Yeah, definitely. He always wore a cap of some sort, baseball hat or something. Yeah.
Okay, because there's something about. Do you understand his wife being passed as well?
Yes.
Okay, because there's a woman who goes, that's going to cause your hair to fall out.
That sounds like his wife, my grandmother.
Do you understand that he would have had thinning hair?
Yes, and he was very self-conscious about it.
Okay, because that's what she's telling me about the hat being about him not having hair. And she's
exactly.
She's like, it's because you wear the hat all the time.
It was the great controversy.
She's like, let your hair breathe. Okay. You would have stayed with them when you were a little kid. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand her making pancakes?
Yes.
Because I see something on a griddle. I see something being like a breakfast food.
Yeah.
And it looks like a little pancake or something. And I see her flipping stuff on the thing. There's something about like their whole mentality changed when you were around. It's like they allowed themselves to soften a bit. You understand that?
That's true. Absolutely.
Okay. She says, "Well, we didn't want to rub off on you, dear." She's like, "You had the opportunity to be different than the rest of us. We knew you were a bit of a black sheep, and we didn't want our sticklerness to rub off on you." She's like, do you have an older sibling, an older brother?
Yes.
Okay. Something about, she's like, we already rubbed off on him. We didn't want to rub off on you.
Interesting.
So do you understand him being either rebellious or overly particular?
He was rebellious.
Okay.
Yeah, he was rebellious. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because you can either go either way. When you grow up with someone who's really a stickler, you can either become very rebellious or you become just like them. So there's something about like our family being kind of stuck in the mud rubbed off on him already. And we kind of just wanted you to be who you are. So we kind of softened ourselves a bit. Do you understand your grandfather having something with his right leg? Having an issue or having a limp or a pain, something in his right leg?
I know one of his legs bothered him, but he
There's
didn't really talk about himself. He didn't talk much at all.
That's fine. There's something about it where I feel like this would have been from his military service, because there's something about him getting injured, like his leg getting injured, and like it would have caused issues from him later on. Okay, so I'm going to share some dirty laundry, and this is what I love about listening to them talk about stories. Do you understand their marriage being, and I say this with love, almost kind of arranged?
Yeah, I mean, they were like second generation Lebanese in the United States. So, okay, and they were both Lebanese.
Okay, there was something about their relationship. She says, your grandmother says, it became a relationship of love, but it started out as a relationship of opportunity. Do you understand? That makes sense. Okay.
It probably was arranged by their families.
Okay. I do feel like they grew closer, but she's like, that kind of created a weird atmosphere for us that people didn't really always know about. But she's very, she's a lot more boisterous and vocal than I feel like she would have been in life. But there's something about like she's very vocal, but like then she gets really, really quiet, but then she's very, very, very vocal. And so there's something about this where she makes me feel like there's something about like either she wasn't supposed to be in life and she chose to be anyway, but she brings back. Okay, so you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, because she keeps showing me these two sides of the self, and then she gets really, really boisterous and very like loud and like I'm gonna say my piece. But then she gets quiet, and I feel this like, this is how I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. But then she gets loud, and she's like, this is how I'm gonna be. like
yeah, like, that hey. Sounds like her.
Okay. He is just he's the one who's coming through. He's my contact. She's there with him. They're very much very happy and proud of you going your own way and doing your own thing. Would they have spoken a different language? I know they're second generation, but would they have understood a different language?
Yes, definitely.
Because I can hear them speaking to each other in a different language, and I specifically feel like this was something they would do when they didn't want other people to know what they were talking about.
Yes,
because
they did that.
They're talking to each other, but then they'll look at me and then they'll turn and start talking in English. And I'm like, what are you saying? And they're like, mind your business. So, it reminds me of my Cajun family, how my great-grandparent, my mom's grandparents would speak only knew French, and her parents would speak French to them, but only English to the kids.
Yes.
They're saying something. They're making me see some sort of like Middle Eastern, Lebanese like drum thing, and they're talking about how you always march to the beat of your own drum, but I'm seeing like this Middle Eastern, like I'm not seeing like a marching band drum. I'm seeing what looks like a more ethnic drum that would have come from like that would have been maybe Arabic or Lebanese or Mediterranean, because there's something about it that looks like handmade. And I don't know if they had one. It's not that, but they're showing me more cultural stuff than Americanized stuff. And so, but I see it being played by that, like with a hand or with like a mallet, and it being some sort of like Lebanese instrument. And so they're like, she always did march to the beat of her own drum. You asked a lot of questions as a kid, right?
Yes.
Because they're like, we hope she's still asking a lot of questions.
I am.
She's like, never stop asking questions. Learn, learn. And if anyone says you get annoying, just ask why. So, do you understand that you're about to go through a big undertaking?
Yes.
Okay. She says the big undertaking you're about to go through is going to be worth it, and we're proud of you for stepping outside of your comfort zone and putting yourself out there and knowing that you are a tsunami, not a wave.
Aww.
And she's like, be big, be bold. It is better. Now, I'm getting this a bit more psychically than hearing it from her. I hear the quote, it is better to fail in reaching for the moon than it is to fail reaching for the attainable. And so she's like, if you fail, at least you were reaching for the moon. She's like, but I see good. But she shows me, she makes me feel. They make me feel good things coming with this big undertaking. I feel like there's something about this launching you forward. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay, because it makes me feel like schooling or education or experience for something that you're going to turn around and use for yourself later to boost something. Do you understand that?
Yes, definitely.
I see this being really good. I do feel the need to tell you to take your time with it, do it right, make sure you learn everything or experience everything through this that you're supposed to experience. Don't rush it because it seems easy or it seems that you get it. Just do it right. Do it all the way through. Do it correctly. Don't let something that seems comfortable catch you off guard.
Okay.
Do you understand that? Do you understand how that's appropriate?
Yes, I've been doing massage for 13 years, and someone's wanting to teach me some new techniques so I can take on some of her clients. So maybe it's like, just because I've been doing it for a really long time, don't think there's still not, that I can't learn, that there's not so much more for me to learn and be open to.
There's something about what you're going to learn might be a little different than what you normally do. And there being an issue with it can be very uncomfortable for the person who's receiving it if it's not done just right. Okay? And so it might be something, because it's along the lines of where I feel like it's going to affect, where important that you do it just right. Like, I keep getting like where it's done just accurately. And so, if you're working as a massage therapist, I can understand where if you twist or you work into a muscle incorrectly, I could see maybe that could be painful.
Yeah, this particular work balances the pelvis with very like minute movement. So if you balance someone's pelvis wrong or you miss something, like it is a much more technical and precise type of thing.
Okay.
It's not even just working with the muscles, it's actually doing some realignment.
Gotcha. Okay, I can see why she would be very particular about it. Well, Alexis, they want
This is fabulous.
know that they have loved coming through and talking to you. They love you. That's an obvious. I don't need to say that from them, but they love you. They want you to, they're with you, and they're very proud of what you've been doing and undertaking in your life. That you've been beating to your own drum, and they highly, highly inspire you to keep doing that.
Oh, thank you, Sean.
You're
This was
very welcome.
beautiful.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a very happy and safe Halloween, Alexis.
Thank you. Happy Halloween, Sean. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
As you can see, there's definitely, differences in how a mediumship reading can occur. Um, Here we had this grandfather come through and shared this story, and then the grandmother came in as well, and they were talking about, her and what she was going to be dealing with in her life versus what they went through, what we saw with Brenda earlier. Loved ones sometimes use things that you are currently going through to let you know that they're watching you, that they're aware of what you're doing, and that they're present in your life. And sometimes they tell us stories and tales of their past to remind us, tales from the crypt almost. Um, I'm not using that I'm not calling it anything. I'm just saying that like it's like in reference to the show. Um, and so, um, they use things and stories from their past and their life to remind us of who they are and where they've been and let us know that they're here. And then sometimes they use stories of your life, that what you're doing now, to let you know they're watching. But know that in whether we hear from their past or your present or discuss your future, they're here and they're watching you now. They're alive and well in the realm of spirit, and on this day and in this time we can hear them and speak to them, even if don't consider yourself a medium. We are all children of the universe. We are all children of spirit. We all have souls within us, and we are all capable of connecting to the world of the dead. So, thank you so much for everyone for tuning in today on Spirits and Spells. I offer you a little bit of advice. As you go out this night, remember that everything you do and everything you enjoy is in honor of the dead. It is honor of those who came before you, honor of those who watch you on your path and help you get where you're going. As you go tomorrow on November 1st, All Saints Day, All Souls Day, mark some time out to pay respect of those who've walked this world before us. Visit them, warm the grave that's become cold, remind them that there are people who still think of them. Look at photos, remember the times that you experienced with these loved ones. You don't have to be a witch to raise a little dead. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you all so very much. My normal way of saying goodbye doesn't seem so apropos right now. So, instead of in love and light, I wish you goblins and ghouls and creeps and spooks. Happy All Hallows Eve. Good night.